James Naismith, Naismith, November 6, 1861 to November 28, 1939, was a Canadian-American physical educator, physician, Christian chaplain, and sports coach, best known as the inventor of the game of basketball. After moving to the United States, he wrote the original basketball rule book and founded the University of Kansas basketball program in 1898. Naismith lived to see basketball adopted as an Olympic demonstration sport in 1904 and as an official event at the 1936 Summer Olympics in Berlin, as well as the birth of the National Invitation Tournament, 1938, and the NCAA Tournament, 1939. Naismith studied and taught physical education at McGill University in Montreal until 1890, before moving to Springfield, Massachusetts, United States later that year, where in 1891 he designed the game of basketball while he was teaching at the International YMCA Training School. 7 years after inventing basketball, Naismith received his medical degree in Denver in 1898. He then arrived at the University of Kansas, later becoming the Kansas Jayhawks athletic director and coach. While a coach at Kansas, Naismith coached Phog Allen, who later became the coach at Kansas for 39 seasons, beginning a lengthy and prestigious coaching tree. Allen then went on to coach legends including Adolph Rupp and Dean Smith, among others, who themselves coached many notable players and future coaches. History of basketball. Basketball began with its invention in 1891 in Springfield, Massachusetts, by Canadian physical education instructor James Naismith as a less injury-prone sport than football. Naismith was a 31-year-old graduate student when he created the indoor sport to keep athletes indoors during the winters. The game became established fairly quickly and grew very popular as the 20th century progressed, first in America and then in other parts of the world. After basketball became established in American colleges, the professional game followed. The American National Basketball Association, NBA, established in 1946, grew to a multi-billion-dollar enterprise by the end of the century, and basketball became an integral part of American culture. Early history. Invention of the game. A game similar to basketball is mentioned in a 1591 book published in Frankfurt am Main that reports on the lifestyles and customs of coastal North American residents, Waarhaftig op Konterfeiting der Wilden. Among other things, a game of skill is described in which balls must be thrown against a target woven from twigs, mounted high on a pole in the middle of a large playing field. There's a small reward for the player if the target is being hit. The game of basketball, as it is known today, was created by Dr. James Naismith in December 1891 in Springfield, Massachusetts, to condition young athletes during cold months. Naismith was a physical education instructor at YMCA International Training School, now known as Springfield College, in Springfield, Massachusetts. Upon the request of his boss, Naismith was tasked to create an indoor sports game to help athletes keep in shape in cold weather. It consisted of peach baskets and a soccer-style ball. He published 13 rules for the new game. He divided his class of 18 into 2 teams of 9 players each and set about to teach them the basics of his new game. The objective of the game was to throw the basketball into the fruit baskets nailed to the lower railing of the gym balcony. Every time a point was scored, the game was halted so the janitor could bring out a ladder and retrieve the ball. After a while, the bottoms of the fruit baskets were removed. The first public basketball game was played in Springfield, Massachusetts, on March 11, 1892. Naismith's original rules. There were only 13 rules of basketball. The ball may be thrown in any direction with one or both hands. The ball may be batted in any direction with one or both hands. A player cannot run with the ball. The player must throw it from the spot on which he catches it, allowance to be made for a man who catches the ball when running at good speed. The ball must be held in or between the hands. The arms or body must not be used for holding it. The first basketball game. On December 21st, 1891, Naismith published rules for a new game using 5 basic ideas and 13 rules. That day, he asked his class to play a match in the Armory Street Court, 9 versus 9, using a soccer ball and 2 peach baskets. Frank Mahan, one of his students, was not so happy. He just said, "Harumph." Another new game. Someone proposed to call it Naismith game, but he suggested we have a ball and a basket. Why don't we call it basketball? The 18 players were John G. Thompson, Eugene S. Libby, Edwin P. Ruggles, William R. Chase, T. Duncan Patton, Frank Mahan, Finley G. McDonald, William H. Davis, and Lyman Archibald, who defeated George Weller, Wilbert Carey, Ernest Hildner, Raymond Kane, Genzaburo Ishikawa, Benjamin S. French, Franklin Barnes, George Day, and Henry Jellin 1-0. The goal was scored by Chase. There were other differences between Naismith's first idea and the game played today. The peach baskets were closed, and balls had to be retrieved manually until a small hole was put in the bottom of the peach basket to poke the ball out using a stick. Only in 1906 were metal hoops, nets, and backboards introduced. In 1894, the soccer ball was replaced by a ball Naismith contacted Spalding to make. Women in basketball. Shortly after, Senda Berenson, instructor of physical culture at the nearby Smith College, went to Naismith to learn more about the game. Fascinated by the new sport and the values it could teach, she started to organize games with her pupils, following adjusted rules. The first official women's interinstitutional game was played barely 11 months later, between the University of California and the Miss Head Schooled, in 1899. A committee was established at the Conference of Physical Training in Springfield to draw up general rules for women's basketball. Thus, the sport quickly spread throughout America's schools, colleges, and universities with uniform rules for both sexes.